being in marketing, I see how strong the media machine is.
Right.
I think about it like this. Right now, from my computer, from my laptop, with very little money, I don't know, let's say I have a budget of $10,000 a month, I can show people whatever I want to show people 6 times a month.
Right.
As much as I want. And then eventually, in this case, I do it so they buy something. Right? They buy a product, they buy some supplements, they sign up for a training. But if you have that on a broad scale with billions of dollars behind it, that media machine just shoving it down people's throats in the correct way, people switch naturally. Because people are like, I look at human beings almost like animals, like lab rats.
Right.
Most people are NPCs. We talked about most people are NPCs.
Most people are NPCs.
If we're going to say 70% of people are NPCs, then 70 people are controlled by that media machine.
Right.
So it's scary, but I also think that I'm very hopeful that, like, I don't think it's as bad as people make it seem. I think a lot of it's fear mongering. I don't think there's a lot to fear, because the second there's a common enemy, we come together.
But then this is where the biggest caveat is, and this is the last thing I'm going to say on it. There's supposed to be what would be considered a common enemy, but then what's common as an enemy won't be a common enemy to everybody. Because somebody will view something and say, oh, well, we should all unify behind this. And be like, no, I kind of understand why this person's
But
doing it.
if
like, even now, remember, I think, well, maybe not so much. I don't know if you guys happen to see it. On TikTok, it was going viral where there was a ton of people who was looking at, like, I think there was Saddam Hussein, Osama bin Laden's like stuff came, and they came out to no, not the niece, but they came out to defend, like, oh man, maybe 9/11 should have happened. I understand why they went and did it. I'm in support of
have you read his letter or his speech?
No. Yeah, I think it was probably that was going viral, and everybody now I'm not saying everybody, but there's a percentage of it was like, oh, I'm anti-America heavily or whatever, right?
I'm very pro-America, but I read his one of his speeches about in 2021, a few years ago. I read it, and it's actually very interesting. He goes, "I'm not against freedom. Like, if the United States try to tell you I'm doing this because I hate your freedom, that's not true. If it's true, why aren't I attacking like the UK or another democracy?" The reason why I attacked is because as a kid, I grew up watching the United States attack my town, my village here, and I just saw them blow up buildings constantly, innocent people dying. And nothing ever happened to the U.S. And so now, I'm older and I think of all these things and I think, like, what, am I just going to sit here and let this happen? No. I'm going to give you a taste of your own medicine. I'm going to knock down one of your tallest buildings. Sure. Because you can't just poke a bear and expect nothing to happen to you.
Okay, and then he got smoked. So it's like
well, yeah, his whole thing was like, I'm just going to do it.
Done deal.
Right.
It wasn't like a Hitler thing where he's like, I'm going to take over the world. It was just like, I'm tired of getting bullied.
Yeah.
And so I was like, honestly,
Osama bin Laden's the OG school shooter. He's the original school shooter.
Pretty much.
And that's the thing.
And like, I can't necessarily blame her.
That's the thing. That's where you have to look at it like, morally it's wrong. Ethically, I kind of get it. And does that make you a bad person? Because really, and that's where the extremes exist, because somebody will look at it and be like, oh, well, you must be. Because you have to look at stuff objectively. You have to be able to. I have Mein Kampf. I've read Mein Kampf. And when I read through
it. I told you, bro. Right? What did I say about it?
And I read Mein Kampf. And I read it 3 times. And while I was reading,
you read Mein Kampf 3 times?
3 times. It's a good read.
Hey, we got fucking.
And I was like, wow, this is.
Kyrie Adonis over here.
I was like, wait a minute.
Chiseled, yeah.
No, I wasn't in defense of anything of the name, but I just want to know. because I looked at it from the standpoint.
You have to look at both perspectives.
I have to look at both perspectives, right? And so I'm just reading the entire thing, and I read it 3 times because I wanted to be able to seep in and really be able to absorb what was being, set up in there. And I'm just reading the entire thing. I'm like, okay, I can understand where his frustration, where you have it coming from, where he was in the book and he was talking about how every neighborhood that he would go to, every corner store, it's now occupied by people who aren't, who don't look like the individuals of the country, whatever the case is, which I can understand. Did he take it too far? Absolutely. Did he do too much?
You think Hitler took it too far?
Did he take maybe he did. Maybe he did.
You think Hitler took it too far?
He took it incredibly too far. And you can acknowledge that. But then the biggest problem that exists, and it's the same thing that happened with Osama's, with the paper and everything. It's like, you don't look at the stuff objectively. It's like you get fed one side and then that's it. And this isn't in support.
Now, this is the way I look at it.
It's just a conversation.
Violence warrants violence, though.
Right.
So you're going to start violence, it's going to get violent with you. Don't be scared if someone gets violent back.
Right.
So I think if I'm in Osama's situation,
That's what
let's say-
Osama was saying.
Let's say I'm in Hitler's situation. Yeah, and he got smoked. It is what it is, you know. He took out a building. Now his entire country got smoked. He got more people killed in his country by doing what he did. So he has to think about
Interesting.
that.
That's a good way to look at it.
So he could be like that, but it's like, okay, you did that, and now what?
Right.
Now all of your people are dead.
Right. Well,
I don't
But
wanna
one
do it,
can
but like-
understand where
Right,
he's
but one
coming
can-
from.
It's
And-
fucking
and
America,
ultimately, I
baby.
think that's what it-
Okay, so here's the thing.
Right.
Let's say you're gonna be a school shooter, but
Oh,
in
Lord.
reality, instead of just arresting you or killing you, I'm gonna go to your house and shoot your family. Are you still gonna be a school shooter?
No.
Exactly. So
No,
that's the
well, it
equivalent.
depends, because if you're somebody who doesn't give a
Probably.
fuck about your family, then that's all right. But those would be an outlier. I think most of the
So
school
then
shooters
also-
give a
but-
fuck about their family.
So that's
Right,
my point. So Osama
right,
bin Laden, like
exactly,
he might have snapped
exactly.
and bombed us, but like, bro, you guys.
That's where
you guys-
that's one of the reasons.
At the
why
end of the
there
day,
should
you're
always be
no better than
consequences for
those
your
that.
action.
You got your country
Exactly.
bombed
It's
way
like, all
more.
right, this person goes low, I'll try to go lower, and then
So-
they'll keep going down.
But
You know,
so back to Hitler. It's like, oh, these people that don't look like me, and I got tired of it. The second you introduce violence to the equation, all you're doing is you're getting violent. You're
exactly,
getting more people killed.
100%. I agree.
It needs to. If you were Hitler and you were supposed to do it correctly, you don't start persecuting Jews. What you do is you start empowering other people to then open businesses in your neighborhood.
That's how it should be.
You should empower them. Be like, hey, look, listen. Like,
Yeah.
like great example.
I agree.
Asian people own all the businesses, so I can't use Asian people. Let's say I'm black. I walk around, black neighborhood, it's all white people that own the businesses. I'm not gonna be there and be like, oh, let's rob these businesses owned by white people, because what happens? Now you get arrested, you perpetuate the stereotype. Instead, you educate black people and you're like, yo, listen, these
Well-
white people are opening businesses and they're beating us because of this. So let's open businesses in our own neighborhood and let's drive them out, because it's our black neighborhood. We know what we want. Let's go do that.
And here's
But
the caveat
the
to that,
issue- yeah.
because in 1921 in Tulsa, Oklahoma, they had what was called Black Wall Street,
Yeah.
where it was the largest conglomerate of black millionaires, and it got bombed by white folk, right? They did it again. A lot of people don't know that they did it again. They did it again in Durham, North Carolina. Got bombed again. They tried to redo it again in, I believe, 1925, 26. Did not end up working out, but that's in a situation to where there is racism behind it, to where it's not only
Right.
prejudice, not only hatred, but also power, to where you can do this and get away with it.
Right.
Now, if you're in a situation where and this is where I agree with you. If you can now do this and there's not any powers that be that will try to prevent you from now empowering the community, then by all means, I'm right there with you. But if in the event there is a powers that be that prevents that from happening, like you can't get access to funding, you can't get access to information, you can't get access to, ownership of whether it be land, whether it be buildings, whatever the case is, if that exists, then you can't do that.
Right.
But if in the event that you can get access to that, then by all means, I'm right there with you.
Yeah.
But overall, this has been a very good conversation, and I hope that for the viewers that it not necessarily expands your viewpoint on life or politics or whatever the case is, but it opens up the door for dialogue, because that's what it should be about. Even if we were to all disagree with each other, all agree with each other, the willingness to have the conversation and just talk about things, that is what matters here.
Yep.
Because if you're just somebody who's far extreme on the left, far extreme on the right, or just one of those incredibly defiant individuals in the middle, if you're not willing to hear the other person out and have discourse, what's even the purpose of trying to have a conversation if you're not even willing to have one?